Good evening, Scotland. Good evening, social media land. I hope you're well. It is Friday, the 15th of November, 2024. Welcome to Saorsa Live. We're streaming across YouTube and TikTok tonight, so please do take the time to like and share across both these platforms and say hello in the comments too. If you lose a live stream in one, please head over to the other. And we are always recording this live and the comments for the security and integrity of the stream. Before I begin, I'm just going to maybe be the first person to say this to you. It's 40 days till Christmas. 40 days till Christmas. Anyway, let's just get on with the intro proper. Today, as activists, we stand at a pivotal moment for Scotland's independence. The SNP's success in governance has shown Scotland's capacity to manage its own affairs and flourish. They're not perfect, but they're better than the Westminster mob that came before them. Yet in striving to prove ourselves capable, has the movement lost the fire to break free entirely? I don't think so. Every day we wait, Westminster's grip tightens, blocking transformative policies, stifling Scotland's ambitions and ensuring our resources maintained are bound to the Union. You know what? That's just the way it is, really, isn't it? At the end. We have to look at the movement, see how we all want independence, but we're actually pulling in different directions. We turned around and we could see our friends, brothers and sisters in arms, all with the same passion. Maybe just a little bit frustrated with the person that's pulling the rope over. Just get over that. Powerful we would be. Be insane. This week I did 4 videos that basically went on about that. We talked about the successes of the SNP. We talked about Scotland's place in the Union. We dabbled with a bit of history, and then on Thursday I had a bit of a rant. And I'm not going to apologise for the rant. I'm not going to do that. That is not what I'm going to do at all. I think that we as independence folk, we as activists, need to decide exactly what we're activists. Are we activists for bringing down the SNP, for slagging off Alba? Are we activists for saying that we have evidence that shows the SNP are compromised, that Alba's membership is dwindling and they're having a terrible bit behind the scenes? Does that really matter? does it? What matters is our ability to come together as a cohesive force, and our ability to look each other in the face and say, you know what, you might have a yellow flag, I might have a blue flag, but I'm really happy to be standing beside you because we're fighting for the bigger picture, the most important thing, the freedom of our nation. And tonight we're going to touch on the subjects of those 4 videos that I did and discuss the points. I've already just gone right through the introduction notes and just talked from the heart here just now, so there's probably going to be more of that tonight than live that I've actually. So as always though, I do want to start with this little jingle just to remind us all how important it is with the digital act. Start our lives with an important reminder that we are fighting one of the world's greatest propaganda machines, the British state and their right-wing oligarch-run media. To combat this, we ask that you always follow, like and share and comment positively across all social media platforms on any of your favourite Scottish independence creators and commentators. By doing this, you help to spread the word of our cause and manipulate social media algorithms to benefit our struggle. So please, for now, like and share this live stream, and if you haven't already, follow this account. Thank you. Okay, let's have a quick look to see who's in YouTube land on that computer and on this screen who is on TikTok land. I'm sure I saw Dave coming in. Hi Dave, how are you? Bah humbug. Yeah, 40 days till Christmas, guys. I hope you've got your Christmas list sent off to Santa. I hope you've been nice and not naughty. There's Gary M. Hi, Gary. Did I see, was it hi from, who said hi from, oh, Gary M from hi from Glasgow, yeah. I'm all for independent Scotland, but I felt quite deflated recently. Do you know something? There's many of us, Gary, that have felt a bit deflated. And I get that because we kind of put our eggs in one basket, don't we? We'd kind of turn around and we expect our political leaders to lead, whether that be the SNP or whether it have been Alba, ISP, the Greens. With the loss of Alex as well, that's a massive loss to the independence movement as a whole. However, our addiction to politics is our downfall. The politicians say that if Scotland wants independence, it will be the people of Scotland that will decide it. And they're not wrong. But the people of Scotland need to understand that it is our power, it is within our remit to use the tools that we have to forward the whole cause for independence. And the barriers and the walls that people put up within the movement, saying, no, we can't vote 2 votes SNP, we must vote this, or we have to vote 1 vote SNP and this one, or no, we must vote 2 votes SNP, and you know what, let's not vote SNP, let's teach them a lesson. Addicted to politics. It's not worth our while to do. If we consider politics as a tool to express our self-determination and not give a flying hoot about the personalities that are involved, they're just people like you and me. If we don't care about that as much and we look at it from an objective point of view and use the tool, the additional member system, and understand that if we are fighting purely for politics, that's not fighting for independence. Politics, no thanks. People, not politics. That's where the power lies. So regardless, we've got a year and a half, and I'm going to be doing these lives and my videos as often as I can to bring the positive word of independence, to help bring lessons to people about the tools that we've got. The D'Hondt calculation, the additional member system. And we have to decide, do we want to just vote for politicians? Or do we want to use politics as a tool to express ourselves? Because I tell you something, 1.1 million votes in 2021 would have delivered another 30 MSPs, pro-Scottish, pro-Indie MSPs. Their bums would have been on the seats in Westminster, in Holyrood, without a doubt. I've done the calculations region by region myself, all right? And I'm working on a series of 8 little 1-minute videos that educate people. They're all scripted. I just need to sit down and actually animate them, okay? And these videos will explain the system that we use, how the vote went, what went wrong, why it went wrong, how many votes the SNP would have actually needed to be able to do it, etc, etc, etc. Okay, and when people start to move away from politics being the addiction, the entity that it is, and realise that it's just an expression of our self-determination, we might actually get somewhere. And I think that's important. By the way, that has nothing to do with tonight at all. That's just me going on a rambling on about Gary feeling a bit deflated. But, you know, I'll do my best to pep us all up. That was TikTok land. Let's see who's across in YouTube land. Hi, YouTube land. Right, there is Age of Aquarius. Robert's there. Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Yeah, I want to say thank you to everybody that engages in the YouTube channel, because about a month ago I was sitting around about 420 subscribers. I'm now over 600 and I'm over the moon about that. Not from an ego point of view, but it means that more people are engaging with the message that I'm putting out there, and that's the most important thing for me, is getting the message out there. I couldn't give two hoots about the way that it goes, like, oh, I've got 600 subscribers, I'm an amazing person. It's a tiny little niche thing, okay, on YouTube. YouTube's this huge ocean of creativity and information and videos and people experimenting and things. I'm a tiny, tiny little niche, and within that niche, I'm even smaller, okay? God, you look at Independence Live, they've got 10,000 subscribers. You look at the two Davies, they've got over 2,000. I've just hit over 600, and I am so happy, so pleased that people have taken the time to share the work, they've taken the time to engage with the work. Because if you have to understand, right, and I say this to the Saorsa team quite frequently, creators, people that do what I do, they might be personalities to some of you, right? But we're not really. We just want to put a positive message out there. The real warriors are the guys and the girls that share the work, the people that click that like button, that interact positively by comments, sharing it. See, on TikTok, if you know how the algorithm works, you can go poof like this and get that out there. Some of my videos on TikTok are getting like 600-700 views, some are getting like 150, you know, depends on how they're doing. But it's down to waiting about 5 to 10 seconds of the video and then pushing like, doing a positive comment, and then doing repost. And if you really want to do something on TikTok, you'd go in and you find the blue button and you just click copy URL. The algorithm thinks, oh my God, you're going to share that somewhere else. And it's amazing. It's the same on YouTube land. Okay. This isn't just for me. This is for every single independence creator. You need to go out and share it. That is what that whole jingle at the start of the show is all about. It's about you guys going out there and just taking the URL, copying it from YouTube, sticking it on Facebook. You know what? If 10 of you went away and did 10 different YouTube groups with, you know, one of your favorite creators, URLs, one of their videos on Facebook, okay, that's 10 of you going to 10 different places. That is that video now waiting to be watched by 100 possibilities. And if somebody comes in and watches 10 minutes of it, 5 minutes of it, 2 minutes of it, they're getting part of the message. This is more important than going out there every Saturday and engaging with the public. Okay, because this can be done at night time. This can be done, I mean, look at us. It's 11 o'clock at night and there is 9 people in TikTok land and 10 people in YouTube land. And more people will watch this back on YouTube later on as well, because it's way, way late at night. But that's the important thing, the engagement that we have, working together. And this is what I'm trying to do, is build up that ability to get a message out. And I get suggestions from people. Somebody suggested that I talk about how America and Britain would feel if we were independent and we got rid of the nuclear weapons. That's a valid point. That's a really interesting discussion to have. I've also been asked if I would do something on the free ports, and I'm absolutely 100% wanting to do something on free ports, and especially I want to do something about Grangemouth as well. I touch on Grangemouth from time to time, but yeah, do you know what? It's amazing. Ruth, I want to say, you said, where is it? I don't know why you're not reaching a wider audience. You've only just recently come across me. It's because I've not been as consistent as I should be. I think that's what it is. And I think that it's a lot to do with, I'm not your usual activist. I'm really not. I'm very much, I couldn't give a shit about how some people will go, the divisional thing. I can't be arsed with it. I really can't. Is it? No, it's not. I'm starting Sweden early. All right. I really can't be bothered with it at all. All right. It's not productive. And so some people don't engage because of that. I've got all the political parties badges on the front of a lot of my content for YouTube, because it's for all the parties, it's for everybody. And maybe that's why. Or maybe I'm just talking shit, I don't know. It could be a bit of that, don't care. The message is going out there, and once it's out there, people might engage with it later on, which is good. I just saw Mr. Tozen come in. Robert, good to see you. Glad you're there. I did reply to your text message, by the way. I hope you got it. And Lisa's there as well now. You know something? We have now been on for 25 minutes and I've not even started proper tonight's show. So, I think what we'll do is, the first part was about the competency or incompetency of the SNP. I'm just going to very briefly touch on that, and then I'll play the jingle for it. Okay. Right. Love them or hate them, the SNP are the party of government. Okay. They are the biggest party, and they have their faults. They have faults in similar ways that every political party has faults. They're not perfect. Tories are way, 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 way not perfect. The Labour Party, incredibly not perfect. The Lib Dems, I don't even know who they are. I couldn't even tell you who their leader is. I'm not even interested who their leader is. They're just a non-entity to me. But the SNP are the only party that is not championed by London. Okay? And no matter what you say about them, and I'm going to wave the SNP flag a little bit here, they have governed Scotland as best as they can within the confines of devolution. Okay, last week we talked about devolution, this glass ceiling that prevents us from doing many, many other things. But consider what they've done with the fact that we send all our wealth south and we get pocket money back. Consider the engagement that they have in Holyrood from the Unionist parties, how it's never anything going to be, it's never going to be positive. It's always going to be from them, the Unionist agenda. It's never going to be anything positive. They're fighting in a different way. Okay, and are they complacent? Are they a little bit set back now? Probably, yeah. You know that. They're probably sitting back comfortable, all right? And I'm a conference goer. I go to the SNP conferences. Do I think that perhaps maybe we could do with a bit of a red hot poker for them? Yes, absolutely. Because they're kind of stuck in the hegemony of politics. And I think that's a shame, because they've done so many good things between the university tuition fees, the baby boxes, all those things that we could list off, which is really boring to do, but they're really relevant, because you look at the tuition fees situation down south, all right? You look at the tuition fees situation down south. Just put them up. Do you think if Labour got into Holyrood, do you think that they're going to keep free tuition fees? I don't think they will. Do you think they're going to keep free prescriptions? No. Do you think the SNP made a national choice to make lives better for Scots by doing things like this. The whole tuition fee thing is to create a highly educated population to bring in opportunity for people that never really had it before. And I'm really 110% all for that. And I think it's a long-term project, because if you have a highly educated population, some of them will disappear to other countries, absolutely. But that's because they don't have as many opportunities here. We're independent, we can create those opportunities for them. So when I say they're not perfect, absolutely, I think that their biggest folly is both votes SNP. Okay, because when you remove yourself from the political hubris, we'll call it, the political hubris of Holyrood, and look at the political system that we've got, the additional member system, the way that we vote, if you understand fully the mechanics of that and can get past the whole idea of trying to obtain a majority government, it was never designed to create a majority government, but there is this little grey area where if you have a certain amount of constituency seats, you will end up gaining more list seats. Right? I'm not going to go into the mechanics of how that works, but that's what happened in 2011 with Alex Salmond, and you know something amazing. SNP were on the rise at that particular point, and that little grey area was the perfect timing, and we ended up with a majority. However, it's not impossible to get a majority just at the constituencies. We need to have 65 seats to have a majority. Okay, there's 72 seats in the constituencies. So if we remove ourselves from the hubris of politics and think, right, I want the SNP to get in with as many constituency seats as possible and campaign tooth and nail for that, but at the same time educate our brothers and sisters. And if we vote for a list-only independence party, independence individuals, they have a greater chance of getting in, because the SNP will end up with everybody else's indie votes. Because are you telling me right now those Scots that voted for Labour are going to go back and vote Labour in Holyrood? I don't think they will. Do you think the 250,000 traditional SNP voters that stayed at home on July the 4th will come back out again? Well, that's what these programmes are about. This is what the grassroots are about. The national conversation is about, is to get these people out to do that. So if we campaigned for the SNP in the constituencies and we pushed forward for a second party or somebody else, okay, or another thing in the list, we have the possibilities of reaching a majority for the SNP there, or even if it was a few seats short, that's cool, right? But we have almost a guaranteed, if we took the million odd votes that the SNP get on the list and stick it into another party or a bunch of individuals across the regions, we're going to have an independence opposition. And I would prefer to have the SNP in a minority government speaking to an opposition whose majority was pro-Scottish as well. That's just how I feel. And I think that that's the message that needs to go out. It needs to go out. But it's convincing the SNP to do that. And that's kind of what the first segment was about. We're going to play the jingle and we'll be right back.
What will it take for Scotland to truly govern itself and control its own destiny? The SNP has proven it can lead Scotland effectively within the limits of devolution, delivering meaningful progress in areas like healthcare and education. But this success within the Union's framework may be holding the movement back from the bold steps needed to secure independence. Time and again, Westminster blocks Scotland's ambitions, reminding us that true autonomy cannot be achieved without breaking free. Independence is a national cause, not just a party's pursuit. The SNP must go beyond governance and unify with other pro-independence voices, inspiring a collective movement that includes all Scots. Scotland's future as an independent nation depends on this unity and the will of the people, not the efforts of a single party. The question is, can we move past caution and embrace the courage it takes to build a free Scotland?
righty-ho. I want to answer a wee question across in YouTube land. Mark Nelson is talking about a 10.4% fiscal deficit, and the figures come from GERS, which is the government expenditure revenue for Scotland thing. I want to ask, okay, if we sent 87.5 billion down to Westminster last year, Mark, and we received 41 billion back to spend on the devolved issues that we've got, and the GERS says that there's about another 30 billion spent on various things that are reserved to Westminster on Scotland. All right, so that makes 71 billion spent on Scotland of our own money, leaving, we'll just make it a nice easy number, about 15 billion left. Okay, now we do get a little bit more through the Barnett formula. That is the 41 billion pounds that we got. Okay, and that is all to do with the amount of money that England spends per head of population, and the Barnett formula spits it out. And yes, because of the way that Scotland is split up with our rural populations, we end up with a little bit more, not much more per head of population, but a little bit more. Then you have these things called unidentified expenditures, which is things such as overseas embassies, overseas aid, military operations that we don't know about, these planes that are taken off from Cyprus that are going across Gaza, taking photographs and giving intelligence to the Israelis, the maintenance of the nuclear weapons. But the biggest chunk is actually for maintaining the debt, the administration of the debt that we don't take loans out on, because we're not allowed to take loans out on. It is Westminster that borrows from the Bank of England for whatever means, and they borrowed £77 billion last year and spent it on stuff and attributed part of that to us, hence your 10.4% fiscal deficit. If we spent our own money, if we retained 87.5 billion and the rest, we would have more than enough money to spend on ourselves, because we would be spending it not as Scotland inside the Union. We would be spending as Scotland investing in itself, putting it all forward and spending it where we needed it. And then you have to consider foreign investment, our own currency, okay, our ability to grow with our renewables and charging people for the renewables down south, instead of having those 4 cables that are getting built that will suck the energy out the North Sea with our renewables and land it in Yorkshire and somewhere else further south, put it into the national grid and pump it back up to Scotland at inflated prices. What about our petrochemical industry? That's getting closed down next year. I think there's been an investment for something there just recently, but it will get closed down. That means we're going to rely on English infrastructure for our petrochemical industry. That means that the oil and the gas will go across to overseas or somewhere down south to be refined and then sold back to us. That's Scotland's wealth touching in somebody else's hands before it even comes back to us. You don't have a problem with that. I've got a problem with that. I do have a problem with that. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so is Scotland truly thriving within the Union? I think I just said no about that by answering Mark's question. Anyway, as a lifelong activist for Scottish independence, I find myself increasingly questioning not just the policies of Westminster, but the very structure of our relationship with the UK. The SNP's efforts to demonstrate that Scotland can govern itself within the limits of devolution have proven Scotland's competence as a nation. But how much longer can we afford to focus on navigating Westminster's restrictions when we should be boldly pursuing independence? Over the years, Scotland has been politically and economically exploited in ways that would anger any nation committed to self-determination. The reality is that Westminster is no longer hiding its hold over Scotland. Today, it actively legislates to restrict the ambitions of Scotland's governing party, the SNP, by blocking policies that could otherwise transform our society. This was not the case under earlier Unionist administrations, which kept devolution within its tight confines to avoid upsetting the apple cart. But the SNP, the only true Scottish party in Westminster and in Holyrood, has pushed the boundaries confronting the glass ceiling head on. Alba does have a president in Holyrood. I don't want to upset anybody from Alba. I quite believe they're getting my second vote, alright, just so you know. Anyway, as a result, the UK government is countered by tightening its grip, obstructing progressive Scottish legislation through unprecedented use of legislative vetoes. The question now is not whether Scotland can govern itself, but whether we are prepared to break free from a system that is designed to contain us. At the core of this reality, Scotland's own wealth, its natural resources and its economic contributions, which have been funnelled southwards with little regard for Scottish interests. North Sea oil, which should have transformed Scotland's future, was instead managed by Westminster with no consideration of a sovereign wealth fund. Norway, which discovered similar resources, wisely established a fund and now secures the nation's prosperity with it. Meanwhile, Scotland's share of that wealth was used to prop up UK-wide spending. The Scots saw very little benefit of that oil and gas. This is not an isolated example. It reflects a systemic approach by the UK government to control and exploit Scotland's economic strengths for its own ends. Most recently, Scotland's attempt to pursue progressive forward-looking policies have been directly obstructed by Westminster. Consider the Scottish Deposit Return Scheme, designed to encourage recycling and reduce waste. While Scotland aimed to lead the way by including glass in the scheme, Westminster intervened, blocking this inclusion and thereby undermining Scotland's ability to be innovative in its environmental policy. Incidentally, I think, was it Luxembourg or somewhere else with a burg on their end, alright, did something very similar. And they now have 98% of plastic bottle waste and glass bottle waste off their streets. 98%. That's mind-blowing. And the reason that they didn't want to do glass bottles is because it would have affected the brewery business down in England that was sold to Scotland. All it is, was a different barcode on a label. How do I know this? Because I work in the industry where one of these machines was sitting outside where I worked. I got trained how to clean it, how to use it, and what it meant for when the bottles didn't work. It's a friggin' barcode. A different bit of printing. That's all that it is. The whole machine scans the bottle. It knows what shapes the bottle are from the barcode. It's insane. So, why did they do that? I think it was just to undermine us. I really do. It's crazy. Okay. The Scottish Government introduced measures like the Scottish Child Payment to counteract some of the most austeric policies that the Westminster put in place. And you have to remember as well that the Scottish Government doesn't run its own budget. It's all sent down south. And we have a budget that is dictated by the Barnett formula, which restricts our fiscal autonomy. The examples I've just highlighted, okay, the bottle bank and the fact that we wanted to put in things we've had to put in place things like the Scottish Child Payment to fight austerity. It shows that Scotland is A, innovative, and B, cares about its people. Okay? It also shows how the UK approach to Scotland is not one of partnership, but is of restriction, a system in which Scotland's unique needs and values are subordinate to the centralised agenda. Brexit. Scots voted to remain in the European Union with 62% choosing to stay. Now, I don't care, again, this is where I get a bit rude to some people. You may have voted to turn round and not stay in the European Union. You might say, oh no, I don't want to go back there. I do. But I would rather have a democratic vote when we're independent and decide that. Let's start with EFTA. I've talked about this many times, right? The European Union is not perfect, but it has taken over £100 billion a year out of Scotland, this whole Brexit thing. Okay? I would rather have that money being circulated around our businesses. I would rather have our European brothers and sisters having the ability to come and work in our industries. I'd rather have my kids and myself having the ability to travel freely through 27 other countries. You know? Anyway, despite this clear mandate in Scotland, we were compelled to exit the EU due to the overall UK vote. That is so not democratic. You know, the aftermath of Brexit has exposed Scotland's vulnerability within the Union, from economic setbacks to the loss of vital EU funding that once supported Scottish industries and communities. As an independence activist, I cannot help but feel that this was an affront to our democracy, a stark reminder that as long as we remain in the Union, Scotland's voice will be drowned out. It is all about what Westminster wants at the end of the day. But beyond exploitation, Scotland's very infrastructure has become dependent on English control. This is an unsettling realisation when I was looking into this. Okay, look at our renewable energy resources. Scotland has some of the greatest potential in Europe, if not the world. Yet we generate all this clean energy, but we rely on transmission lines controlled by UK authorities to send it southward. Okay, or when it's coming back in circular things, we end up paying more to connect it, right? There's this new electricity superhighway being built down the east coast that will even bypass Scotland. You know, this is infrastructure for England, exploiting Scotland. The transportation networks like the East Coast and West Coast main lines that run right up and down through Scotland into England, all managed by England. And the impending closure of Grangemouth, like I said earlier on. Okay, Scotland's oil refinery, our only oil refinery, closed or closing over the next year or so. We're going to rely on other people, other nations to refine our wealth, and then they'll sell it back to us at inflated prices. If that doesn't make you angry, if it doesn't make you mad, what is wrong with you? You know, I mean, why is all of this a good thing? You know, I don't know. Let's listen to the next jingle.
Is Scotland truly thriving within the Union, or are we simply surviving under a structure that restrains us? Westminster's ongoing interference has shown that Scotland's autonomy remains limited, with our own resources and policies often undermined to serve a broader UK agenda. Over the years, our wealth and renewable energy potential have been exploited, while attempts at progressive policies are blocked, highlighting that true self-determination cannot exist under these constraints. Brexit has only amplified our vulnerability, proving that Scotland's voice is often ignored. This dependence threatens our future, making independence not just an ideal, but a necessity. We cannot wait while our infrastructure and resources are controlled from afar. To secure a future of prosperity and pride for Scotland, we must come together, stronger and more united than ever, to make independence a reality. The question remains, can we seize this moment for Scotland's freedom?
Yeah, we should seize the moment for Scotland's future. Mark's got another good question across in YouTube land, talking about 60% of Scotland's external trade is with the rest of the UK compared to 19% of the EU. Yeah, absolutely. Are you telling me that we're not going to trade? Of course we're going to trade. Okay? Are you telling me that we're not going to have some sort of thing in place? When people say that to me or say that in conversations, I ask, do they not want our stuff anymore? When we're independent, do they not want it anymore? It's way, way above our pay grades. You know that. It's still going to happen one way or another. And a lot of our trade, because we have to rely on English infrastructure to sell our goods overseas, because you do know that Scotland, okay, Scotland, little Scotland, backwater Scotland, part of the Union, Scotland, exported more goods than it imported, pretty much since they started calculating and measuring that. We've always done that. But we need to rely on the infrastructure down south to do this. Did you also know as well, right, that measure of 60% is a voluntary paper that is actually put in place for the exporters to put in place, to sign. It's not a compulsory paper that they have to sign to say where the goods are going after they go into England. It's when they leave and they're actually on the ship. It's when they actually all know. But most of the goods that we send south, a good chunk of it is going overseas. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're still going to trade with England and we're still going to trade with Europe. It'll just be easier. £100 billion easier for Scotland in trade that's circulating through our businesses. Is that not pretty good? And we'd probably have the same, if not more, with the rest of the UK, and it would still continue because they still want our stuff and we still want their stuff. We're going to be good neighbours. We're just going to be equal neighbours. Yeah, I think so. Hey, let's have a quick look in TikTok land. There's a great conversation going on between Lisa and Mr. Towson about Russia. Russia wants the Iron Curtain back. We don't need Putin. Yeah, Putin's a whole different thing. We should do a live about Putin and Russia. Bring up some interesting history about the Donbass region and stuff. Be interesting. Across in YouTube land. Oh, there's Mr. Cable. I never saw you sneak in there. Good to see you there. Thank you for coming in. Neil as well. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Consider that the Scottish economy has been entirely designed by the UK government and not for the betterment of Scotland. Yeah, so internal investment. Okay, I said this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Scottish economy. I don't know whether I said it on the live, but I certainly said it on the videos. There's a whole way of encouraging more foreign investment into Scotland, and that is to become a high-end, high-tech manufacturing sort of place. And where a friend of mine lives down near Stranraer, I thought would be an ideal place. You've got the ability for a deep water port there. You have the ability to collect a lot of water, build reservoirs. And do you know something? You allow the manufacturing companies to have free water. You stick a couple of wind farms there, or use a renewable resources in place already. Give them reduced energy costs. Don't meter the energy, just get them to pay for transmission of the energy. Put a little bit of price on it. You don't want them to not have value. And then what about then the trains that come into Stranraer? They could take the goods across to the east coast, and we could make Grangemouth a deep water port for sending goods across to Europe. Okay, so are you telling me, right, that this is just putting it out there, that if we were to give manufacturing companies the opportunity for free energy and free water, that's not going to encourage them to come in? That's not going to get them to invest in our people, and that's not going to allow for us to have a really strong taxation system. So what they gain from the energy and the water, because it costs about 12,000 litres of water just to make a friggin' smartphone. 12,000 litres of water. How can they fit 10,000 litres of water in this little thing? That's insane. Anyway, they're getting free water, getting free energy. They're going to invest, okay? And that means that the community that's working in the factories, that's doing the infrastructure for sending the goods off, the supply chain of goods coming in to make this stuff, is all jobs. And it's all the local people spending in the local economy and maybe visiting other places to spend in the economy, and then life becomes better. It's that whole circular thing. Taxation for these corporations, though, the traditional capitalist model would be low taxation for them. I say fair taxation. I say you and me deserve far less tax. Far less tax. And corporations deserve a little bit more tax. That's just the non-capitalist in me. Right? And my God, people will be shitting their pants when I say such things like that. It's like, oh, you can't do that. Well, no, I can. I can, and I would if I was First Minister of, well, it would be Prime Minister, or if we're having a republic, President, whatever. If I was in charge of Scotland, I would get far more clever economists than myself and say, design a system where that's going to work, where we can encourage that sort of growth and make sure it's more cost effective for businesses to pay their tax and have free energy and free water than it is to have cheaper taxation. Because I am clueless when it comes to the economy, okay? Completely. I go and read things, I have ideas, and then I look at the between the lines and try and turn it into an everyman sort of way of looking at it. I've gone completely off topic tonight. I really have. Is that okay? Am I okay going off topic? Please give me a thumbs up if I'm okay about going off topic tonight. I'm a bit rambly tonight. I'm back on my vitamins again, so my brain's working really a lot faster, which is good. Okay. Oh, ridiculous rant to say the UK exploits Scotland, just a childish tantrum. I'm 53. I'm not a child. I'm not a child at all. But Scotland never saw any benefit from its oil, and they're about to make 4 massive cables down the east coast of Scotland, where, you know, even if like half of that energy came ashore in Scotland, we would benefit from it greatly, having like cheaper energy. If that's not exploiting Scotland, sending all of our revenue down south and giving us pocket money back. Hold on. That's a childish rant. I want more pocket money. There we go. Childish rant. Crazy childish rant. Okay. That was across in YouTube land, by the way. Right, so I think I want to talk briefly about the history part of what went on all the way back to, and here we go, here's a nationalist bringing up Battle of Bannockburn, a nationalist bringing up William Wallace. Yeah, of course I am, right? It's important that we understand what happened in our history, okay, to learn from it so we can see what moving on to the future. In fact, next week, I've only just discovered through some of Lisa's videos and somebody else's videos that the British Army was stationed on the Scottish border at the time that the Treaty of the Union was being signed. I'm going to research that more because I think that's an interesting concept from our past that we should learn from. Anyway, let's do the history thing. Is Scotland doomed to repeat the mistakes of its past? This question echoes through Scottish history as a cautionary reminder that disunity has often been Scotland's greatest enemy, allowing English influence to seep in and weaken our sovereignty. Today, as the independence movement grapples with internal divisions and a persistent unionist presence in Holyrood, we must ask ourselves if we're on the verge of repeating a painful history. To understand what is at stake, we need to look back at 2 critical periods when Scotland's leaders, torn by rivalry and personal gain and foreign influence, compromised the nation's future. The lessons of these eras are clear. Only a united Scotland can hope to stand independent. During the Wars of Independence in the late 13th and early 14th century, Scotland faced the overwhelming power of Edward I of England. William Wallace, a figure of courage and resilience, rose from his origins to lead an uprising against English forces. Despite his successes at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, Wallace was hindered by fractious Scottish nobles, more interested in their own power than in unity. Figures like Sir John Menteith, am I saying that right? John de Menteith? I can't read that. Menteith? I don't know. Anyway, he betrayed Wallace and exemplifies the dangers of divided loyalties that weaken Scotland from within. Wallace's death became a rallying point, but disunity persisted even as Robert the Bruce fought both English forces and Scots loyal to John Comyn. This is another name I always say wrong. How do you say it? Comyn? Is that right? Or Comyn? Comyn? I don't know. Only years later, though, through bloodshed and sacrifice, did Bruce manage to unite the nation to win at the Battle of Bannockburn. See, a unionist will be slagging me off, bringing up the Battle of Bannockburn again, securing our independence at great cost. These wars illustrate that Scotland's internal rivalries left it vulnerable to the English influence and prolonged the struggle for independence. Let's Jump forward to the 18th century when Scotland again found itself divided and susceptible to English interference. The failed Darien scheme left the nation's economy in ruins, paving way for the 1707 Treaty of Union, a deal orchestrated by a few nobles who prioritised English gold over Scotland's sovereignty. Figures like James Douglas, the Duke of Queensberry, accepted payments from England, effectively selling Scotland's independence to cover personal debts and losses. What a wanker. The Treaty of the Union was deeply unpopular, a betrayal by leaders who valued self-interest over national loyalty, setting a bitter precedent that resonates today. These historical lessons are not just echoes of a distant past, they are warnings for the present. In Holyrood, Unionist MSPs elected by Scots aligned themselves with English political interests, prioritising Westminster's agenda over Scotland's autonomy. And before anybody says that's not true, it really is. Scottish Labour is just Labour. Okay, the Tories in Scotland is just the Tories. They are the same party as the one down south. It is on the Electoral Commission's website. You can clearly see it. So these little piddly little parts of Labour and Toryland, right, sitting in Holyrood will never have Scotland's interests at heart. They will never fight and push the boundaries of devolution. Ever. 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 Sorry, I get a bit heated inside my heart thinking about that. I just don't understand why we've not elected a Scottish independence opposition. Drives me bananas. Anyway, this influence within our government mirrors the past where Scottish leaders sided with England for personal gain, again sacrificing Scotland's interests. The SNP, while achieving remarkable progress in governance, risks losing its radical edge by focusing too heavily on competency within the devolution framework. They need to get with the programme. They really do. I don't think for a second that they don't believe in independence, but I do believe that they need to understand that we need to be doing more. Well, they can be doing more in their sphere of influence politics by just withdrawing everybody from the list. From them. No SNP list, people, please. Not one, thank you. Let's vote in about another 30 odd people with the SNP votes. Sorry, sidetracked. Back on track, please. Anyway, the SNP's dedication for demonstrating Scotland's ability to govern effectively is commendable, yet independence cannot be achieved by governing well. It demands bold, transformative action. Meanwhile, the broader independence movements mirrors the clan rivalries of the past, split among parties like the SNP in Alba and the Greens, and various civilian organisations. These factions, more focused on individual visions than a united push for independence, weaken the movement as a whole, making it easier for people to turn round and be critical of the independence movement as a whole. Disunity gives Westminster exactly what it needs, a fractured front that makes it easy to delay, dilute and dismiss Scotland's demands for independence. Scotland's addiction to politics, our internal debates and rivalries, risk undermining the very independence we seek. If Scotland is to avoid repeating history, we must learn from past mistakes. Independence movement needs unity, a shared vision that transcends party lines and personal ambition. Ordinary Scots who bear the burden of political decisions deserve a movement that prioritises their future, not party agendas and not individual agendas. Only through a unified, decisive effort can we overcome the legacy of betrayal and division that has held us back for centuries. So as we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, will Scotland finally unite for independence, or will we once again allow disunity to shape our fate? The answer lies not in our history, but our willingness to learn from it.
Will Scotland's future be one of unity and independence, or will we allow history's lessons of disunity to defeat us again? Scotland's past shows us that division has often been our greatest enemy, weakening our sovereignty and leaving us vulnerable to outside influence. From the Wars of Independence to the Treaty of Union, internal rivalries allowed English interests to take hold, while leaders focused on personal gain over national loyalty. Today, echoes of those divisions persist, with factions within the independence movement pulling in different directions rather than standing together. This disunity only strengthens Westminster's hold over Scotland, undermining our goal of self-determination. If we are serious about achieving independence, we must unite, setting aside party differences and prioritizing Scotland's future over individual ambitions. The choice is ours. Will we seize this moment to create a free Scotland, or allow division to shape our fate once again?
What is Mo's Wall? TikTok land, what are you talking about? I've missed that whole conversation. Take it easy, Mo. Yeah, I'm a bit of a ranty person tonight, Lisa. I can't help it. My blood pressure's not going up, I'll tell you that much. I'm feeling good. Feeling good. Great conversation going across in YouTube land. Very interesting conversation. Right, listen. Thursday's video, the video that I put out yesterday, is kind of the next segment, and I don't think I can replicate the way that I delivered the message yesterday. So I can't do the same passion, because I'm not walking around my neighbourhood looking like a lunatic talking into his phone. This is what I do. I walk around making my videos, talking to my phone like this, looking over the top of my phone, look at my neighbours thinking, that weirdo again, out making videos. I like making videos. It's my digital stall in the street for getting stuff out there to people. Anyway, what I'm going to do though is I'm not even going to go to my notes or anything on the screen here just now. I want to talk kind of what I touched about at the start of tonight's show, and this will be probably the last segment, and then we can have another sort of chat about things. We are all independence activists. We are all people that believe in self-determination for Scotland. It's not a game. It's a calling. It's an ideology that sits really amongst our head and our heart. Okay, we can see the potential and the benefit for everything to do with Scotland standing on its own. Our wealth, our ability to do things, the whole idea of when Scotland becomes independent, because I firmly believe that it will. But when it comes independent, so many people have argued, well, you wouldn't have the pound, you wouldn't have the Bank of England, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't have the benefit of the British Army. It blows my mind to think that. There's so many counter arguments that I could go into about that, but it's not relevant to what I'm wanting to say just now. Because as activists, we know that we would have our own currency, we would have our own central bank, we would have our own armed forces, we would have every single thing that any normal country we would have. But to get there, to have that, we need to get over ourselves. We need to get past the bullshit that separates us from that destiny. Too many people are wanting to not move forward until Nicola Sturgeon and her evil cabal of bullshit and £600,000 nonsense, and she is in jail. I'm not going to mock anybody that turns around and talks about that £600,000. I've got good friends that turn around and talk about it, and I'm like, don't involve me. I don't really care. Nicola Sturgeon isn't leading the independence movement. The SNP are not leading the independence movement. Alba are not leading the independence movement. They're friggin' politicians. They're a tool to be used to demonstrate our right of self-determination. They work for us from the taxes that we pay and the cross in a box that we put on a bit of paper into another box that gets counted to determine who sits and represents us. We put too much faith on that system. Who votes SNP? No, no, no. One vote SNP, one vote any other indie party. No, 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 no. Vote for the Union. No. Vote for independence. We're sitting round about 50-50, maybe a wee bit more. I would say a lot more if you start to include my son's generation, who would vote for independence tomorrow. In 2014, there was one independence voter in this house. One, and that was me. My kids were too young to vote. There's now 4. My wife, who moved across from her homeland, my son, who is 18 now, and my daughter, who's 16, and myself. That makes 4 of us, right? So the 4 of us would all vote yes. Would all vote SNP1 and any other independence party too. Not because SNP do transformative policies. Not because the other independence party does transformative policies and holds the SNP to account. That's Holyrood. That's the Holyrood game, the arena of discussing policy. I don't care about that. I want the SNP talking to a pro-Scottish opposition, because then they can turn round when the Unionists start talking shit and go, "Why don't you just sit down, mate? This is a Scottish parliament, not an English parliament. Sit down. Yeah, you're Scottish and you've been voted in by Scots, but who do you report to? Who do you report to? All right, you report to your Starmer. Right, he's your boss, yeah. And does he have Scotland's best interests at heart? No, he doesn't. All right. So there you go. Oh, you've just thrown me right off, Mr. Townsend. Did Scotland win the football? Did we do that? Anyway, put that to the side. Where was I? Getting over ourselves. Right, yeah. If we can do that, if we can put a pro-Scottish opposition into Holyrood and also still have an SNP government that might be in minority, they would have to talk and negotiate with the pro-Scottish government and the pro-Scottish opposition to get policies through, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Let them get on with it and push the boundaries of devolution by working together. What else do we need? That's your competent political sphere. We also need non-political people, non-political activists, organisations taking our claim of right, our ancient constitution it's still active, it's still a legal document in Scotland, to places like the United Nations. And that's what Salvo and Liberation Scotland do. Now, I've worked with Salvo. I believe in their message. I've been on phone calls with Sarah Sawyers in the past. I've sat on their signal groups talking to them, and was going to be doing a lot of work with them about 2 years ago with regards to their social media. The decision I made not to do that was because I didn't want to be involved with part of the leadership. Not because they were bad, but because there was a difference in, what's the word I'm looking for? A conflict in interests of doing things. However, I would have still happily and would still happily campaign for their message. Okay, so take that and put it to the side. Mo was happy to campaign for Salvo and Liberation Scots' message because they are our competent international people that take that message to the EU and the UN to say, hey, look, we have a viable liberation movement here. We want to move this forward and have these discussions. So then it puts international pressure on the Union. Competent sphere of political power in Scotland, working to push the boundaries of devolution, a competent, positive international group, pushing people to speak on our behalf in the UN and the EU. Is that not a good idea? Yes. Is that not happening just now? Most of it. And then finally, the last pillar of independence, an enthusiastic, energy-filled grassroots movement the soldiers, the warriors of independence, you guys clicking like and share and commenting, that is the new spears. And I'm sorry, Mr. Towson, we're not going to get to run around the borders with your claymore. You're going to have to just sharpen up your mouse and click like. All right? There may come a time where you do have to sharpen it though. All right? But when that comes and that happens, I'll let you know. All right? But it's you guys, the grassroots movement. We need to attend marches. There's 3 all under one banner marches next year, May, June and September. I've already booked the days off. I'm going to be going to all of them. It's really important to get to all of them, to shout. I've got a whole bunch of new chants to do. I'm getting bored of this. What do we want? Independence. When do we want it? We're old fuckers and we're doing the same things again. No. I've got far better chants to do, and I'll teach you them all on different lives. All right. So it's important that we get to these things. But do you know something? It's important as well that all under one banner work with Believe in Scotland. Why aren't they doing that? I don't think it's a conflict of interests. I just think that they need somebody to be a catalyst to bring them together. Likewise, I think that the SNP and Alba and ISP and the independence people need a catalyst to bring them together to say, look, the bigger picture is the freedom of our nation to be in charge of our own wealth, to move ourselves forward, to take the risks that every single nation does and learn from our own mistakes. You know? Is that not what independence is about? Is that not what self-determination is about? Is that not what we should be doing instead of thinking, oh, if it wasn't for the English in 1707, Scotland would have been bankrupt. We were bankrupt already. Oh, England are saving Scotland now in 2024. From what? From Westminster policies. Westminster policies would never have given our children free tuition. Westminster policies would never have given us free at point of use prescriptions, baby boxes, all that stuff that people think is garbage when it's really not. We take it for granted now. But believe me, if we had an English party in Holyrood, it would go. It would be gone. Without a doubt, within the first term of them getting in. So let's look at this. Let's break it down very briefly before we finish, right? It goes like this. Competent and hard-working politicians that we have voted in, that we're not going to campaign for on their policy. We're going to campaign for independence. Okay? See if Alba were the biggest independence party. I would be saying to you, vote for them for the constituencies. And let's vote for the SNP for the list. But it's not that. So let's do it the other way. All right, let's vote a minority SNP government in and get as many Alba or as many ISP or as many individuals who are independent minded into Holyrood. Let's put their bums on the seats. Let's make Holyrood a Scottish Parliament. Let's do it. Is that not a great buzzword? Let's make Holyrood a Scottish Parliament. 2 weeks' time, that will be what our lives are about on our videos. International group Salvo Liberation Scotland, let's go, let's support them, let's, give them a couple of pound if necessary to get the thing going, go and sign all their stuff, go and look at all their stuff, let them campaign about the free ports as well. But as with the SNP, as with Alba, as with all of us, when they start talking shit about each other, ignore it. Is that relevant? No, it's not. There was, when was it? People were saying, I've come across different people that have said they hold emails that show how the SNP are compromised, how they've got conversations on WhatsApp. So they've seen them showing that SNP are shit, and people also have documents that show that Alpa's membership figures are being falsified. All this garbage. Couldn't care less about it. Okay? I just want the numbers in Holyrood. I just want them to push for independence. That's all that matters to me. That people will argue back and say, what about integrity? What about the integrity of the party? Well, we're going to wait another 100 years until we've got another party that's got integrity that holds the same amount of power as the SNP. No. 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 I would rather use what we've got just now and get to the point where I can see that I've done my piece. I've done what I can to get independence over the line. You know? All we need is a legal ballot box event to express our right of self-determination. They like to call it a de facto referendum. I cannot stand that use of terminology. The legal definition is a plebiscite. A plebiscite election. A plebiscite election is any form of legal ballot box event that can be used to determine constitutional change in a country or a region of a country. Okay? And it's internationally recognised as well. So, why aren't we then going to the polls and voting as a plebiscite election in 2026? Educating our brothers and sisters on first vote for the constituencies for SNP, any other independence party on the other one. Here's a question for you. Would it be useful to have a website page that broke down by region the individuals who are independent parties, who we need to vote for? Would that be something that would be useful? What do you think? I think it came to me this afternoon. I thought that might be a bit of a useful thing. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Where we can turn round and look at that when they close the applications for candidates, and then we can look at Lothian region and say, Alba has 4 people in. That's who we need to vote for. Obviously now Alba's got 2 people there, so we then have to have half of us voting for Alba and other people voting for maybe the Greens. I used to vote Green all the time, but I feel kind of dirty now. I like their policies. A lot of their policies are really good. I just don't like their leadership anymore. If they got different leadership in, I'd probably vote for them. Anyway, that's by the by. Where was I? Yes, Lisa, we need tactics. But we have a little bit of time on our hands. Put that together. I don't know whether if Barry is in YouTube land just now or not. I'm going to get my my main guy that does all the tech stuff. We're going to maybe brainstorm putting some sort of thing together where we can capture the candidates and then maybe even have a survey of who you're going to vote for so we can see and put that out nationally amongst all the independence groups once it's set up. I think that would be a good idea. Sort of like looking at it going, there's 4 candidates there. If a party's got 4 candidates in a region, you need to vote for them in the regional thing, all right? Because they would have, if here's the example, all right? In Glasgow, there was over 100,000 votes for the SNP on the list because they got all 9 constituency seats. Their divisor for the list was 9 plus 1. So 100,000 divided by 10. They started off with around about 10,000 votes. It's actually a wee bit more. I'm just making it easier. Okay. So, Labour had 80,000, Tories had 40,000 and about 16,000 for the Greens. So Labour ended up with 3, Tories ended up with 3, and the Greens ended up with 1. All right. SNP ended up with nobody. However, if we gave all those 100,000 votes to Alba, they would have had 4 seats. 4 seats from the list. 4. And if you don't believe me, the videos that'll come out in the next couple of weeks will actually prove it to you. And you can go and do the calculation yourself. There's stuff on my YouTube channel that directs you to how it's calculated and stuff. But that's going to be a big struggle to convince people, but we need to be doing that as often as possible. But there you go. Oh, Dave's jumped across to YouTube land. Hi Dave in YouTube land. I've got another jingle to play, but it's kind of irrelevant because I've kind of talked about it all. So what I'm going to say just now is I'm going to kind of wrap up a bit and ask everybody that's here tonight, okay? Everybody that's been listening, go away and think about what's important to you about independence. Is it about your party? Is it about your faction? Is it about that you're more scared of SNP policies? Is it because you're addicted to politics? Is your addiction to politics going to deliver independence? Or do we need to kind of move past something and realise that if we don't get over ourselves, we are going to be the generation. We will be the generation. And this is how it works. And that includes all the youngsters that are out there just now watching this as well. You're part of this. Okay? And I'm not talking specifically about the people that are pro-indie. I'm talking about the people that are basically pro-indie and pointing the finger at everybody else. This generation will go down in history as having the greatest opportunity to fight together for something better for their country, being more interested in tearing each other down. We will be the laughingstock again of the world. We were in 2014. Can you imagine voting to remain in this shitty union? God almighty. Put that down to fear. Project Fear. Yeah. Anyway, it's been great. Yes, Lisa, it was. There was a lot of papers that were put on the wrong place and counted, and people putting crosses in boxes. Can't do anything about it now, but people still voted for it, which really annoys me. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up and I'm going to play something that I made. It's on YouTube and I stuck it on TikTok as well, and it's at the end of the YouTube video that I made yesterday. It's like a little video saying how beautiful it is not to be stuck to the political rhetoric from it all. We need to move past it. Hang on a second. Agnes, were you saying that I should run, or was it yourself, that I should be an MSP? Was it yourself? I'm sure that I saw somebody saying, "Hi Aaron, I never saw you sneak in there." Right. It might have been your good self. Right. I've been asked to run twice by people, and I've seriously considered it. I thought that a few of us within Saorsa could maybe have an independence person. I even formed a strategy. All I need is 20,000, 25,000 votes in Lothian to become a list MSP. You need about 4.2% of the vote to get that. However, being an MSP, I would have a great platform in Holyrood, but I think I can do more good being an activist, because I'm not constrained by rules. I might change my mind. Okay, I might change my mind, but I think having the ability to not have a single voice, like one little voice in Holyrood, would be drowned out by the bigger parties. But they can't drown my voice out here. They can't drown my voice out at a march. Getting up on a stage and speaking, having an opportunity like that is a lot more powerful than standing up in Holyrood, in my opinion, because Holyrood is just one pillar, and we need to have people that transcend all pillars, people that will talk to politicians, people that will talk to the international group, people that will work with the grassroots. And that to me is probably where my strength would be just to be grassroots. But we might change my mind. Anyway, that's what the video is about at the end here. It's the change the ending video. And I'm going to pop onto Discord for about 10 minutes after this just now. So if anybody is on the Discord, please jump on. We can come and say hello. I can't have a big 2-hour conversation because I'm actually working at 7 o'clock in the morning this weekend. We're going to wear body cams on 2026. Absolutely. Yes. I'm sure that we should get international observers in, Lisa, to the counting places for that. We need to get, this is it, this is what we need to do. We need to get people on board, though. We need to get people on board with this message, and it kind of starts with all you guys talking about, something. Let's have I find people will switch off if you say vote SNP1 and any other indie party. You're going against what they believe in because they're addicted to politics. You need to sort of do a bit of, what's it called? What's the word called? Socratic? No. Erotic? No. Socratic questioning. Thank you, brain, honestly. Socratic questioning, where it's it's almost like hypothetical, but it's directed to instill a bit of critical thinking. So when I've come up against that, and I did this at the conference as well, it says, why have we never thought about, from an independence point of view, why have we never thought about also voting in pro-indie opposition? Would it not be better to have the SNP talking with other pro-indie people on the other benches? Oh, or are you just happy with them speaking to the English parties? That works so much better than saying SNP1 and any other indie, because they go away and think about it and then they come back and it's more of a reasonable conversation. So please, if you're going to do anything like that, please, think about planting a seed and talking about it that way. And then be nice to Salvo and be nice to Liberation Scotland, because they've got a whole different arena of putting things out there. They need to be having our support because it's a whole different thing. It's not political. It's more based on our history and our ability to look back and learn from our history and use the tools that are there. So let's use the additional member system to vote in both a pro-Scottish government and a pro-Scottish opposition. Let's use the tools that we've got with our claim of right and our old constitution to bring about a positive liberation movement that's recognised internationally. And let's show these two organisations, the political and the civic, going across there. Let's get Believe in Scotland and all under one banner to start talking together. Anything that you're putting out there, tagging it all under one banner and Believe in Scotland. Tag them both in. Get them. Can you imagine these two organisations coming together on the platform purely of independence? Just purely on independence. Do you think the speakers at the two different types of marches would get on the stage with each other? I hope that they would, because that's what this whole conversation's been about. It's about getting over yourselves. Come on, politicians. Let's get over ourselves. Right, I'm going to go. Thank you very, very much for watching. Thank you, Mark, as well, if you're still there, for your comments across in YouTube land. You made for a very lively conversation in YouTube land. Thank you, everybody in TikTok land as well. And everybody that's done gifts as well. And I say this every single week. I keep thinking I need to go back and look at the different gifts that have come in, and if we've hit £10 to give it to a Palestinian organisation. But there you go. Anyway, if you can make it across the Discord, get across the Discord. If you can't, I'll see you during the week. Take care. Thank you for watching.
It's so beautiful. I feel I can't even explain this.
You must stop this.
I can't. I won't.
You know what will happen.
You need to join me.
No one's gonna take me alive.
come to make things right.